Hi there, Investing Putts back with you again. Up to over 50 subscribers, so it's awesome. There's actually a few people watching this. Um, I've still been trading the poor man's covered call, but I'm actually kind of going back to the basics, trying to study the profit and loss behavior. Um, I have a Black-Scholes modeling code that I'm using inside a spreadsheet actually. So anyway, let's model a poor man's covered call, and actually this is a trade I have on right now on the SPY. The long part of it, the leap, is 400 strike, expires January next year. Implied volatility about 23%, and it's worth about $46. The short call is a 435 strike, expiring November 5th, with an IV of 17.7%, and it's worth about $9.47. Okay, so what I'm going to do is model both options with the Black-Scholes equation. With Black-Scholes, you have to supply an implied volatility, and that's not always easy. So you end up having to create what's called a volatility surface. So how does the volatility, the IV, change as the underlying price change, as the days to expiration changes? So anyway, that's I use the sticky delta model, Derman, to handle changes in the underlying. So anyway, I'm not going to go into any detail on that. I may do a video later on that. But all right, so let's just look at the P&L. I'm only going to show P&L here. I'm not going to show any other details. This is of the poor man's covered call, and let's assume that the SPY increases. So in this graph, the solid green curve here shows the increase in the share price. So over the course of to the expiration of the short call, it goes up by about $15. Now the blue dotted line is the profit of my position. So as you can see, it goes up to about $6 at expiration. Now the dotted green curve is what I call the percent profit captured or loss suffered. So in this case, all it is basically when you have a winner like this, it's the profit of the spread, the value of the spread divided by the value of the stock. So in other words, if the stock price goes up by $15, then the value of the spread went up by about $6. So that's about a 40% of the profit captured. And what's kind of interesting here is this spread was when I purchased it was net 23 delta. So if you use delta as a proxy for probability, then this spread should have the kind of the equivalent of 23 shares of stock. So it should be about 23% as effective as owning the stock itself. But we could see it was actually 40% as effective. It was like owning 40 shares of stock with the spread. So that's pretty nice. At least for this particular underline on this particular day, the poor man's covered call seemed to give you more profit than you would just get by buying 23 shares of SPY. So maybe the more important graph is what happens if the SPY decreases. So again, you can see that the solid green line is the change in share price. So from the start to expiration, it loses about $14 a share. And the dotted blue curve is my profit curve. And again, the dotted green curve is kind of the percent loss that I've suffered. So in this case, here at about October 10th, I've only suffered about 10% of the theoretical loss, even as the share price goes down. So even though the spread was a net 23 delta, it should decrease like 23 shares of stock, but it really decreased like about 10 shares of stock. So we seem to be mitigating the potential loss by trading the poor man's covered call. And what you notice though is that green dotted curve, it stays stable at about 10% from you know, October 10th out to October 17th. And where I put the arrow here on October 16th, that's when the short call hits about 35, minus 35 delta. So this is actually when I tend to roll short calls, when they get to about minus 35 delta, hopefully not that much lower. But you can see that the P&L really deteriorates if you let it go much further. Anyway, so the takeaways here, when the underlying increases in price, this 25 or 23 actually delta spread gained 40% of the rise in the underlying. So it seemed to have about a 2-for-1 benefit over just owning 23 shares of stock. And I can't see any obvious need to roll the short call until you get to like within less than 10 days to expiration. So once the underlying goes up, there's really you might as well let it ride. This ends up, I usually end up rolling the short call when the stock rises, rolling the short call at about 75 delta, but that's just me. Now when the underlying drops in price, we noticed that at first the spread lost very little value, and this was kind of theta decay working in our favor. That short call was losing more value than our long call was. Now, however, that rate of loss increases when that short call goes below 35 delta. So therefore, what I've been doing and what the math seems to indicate is that you should be rolling that short call in the poor man's covered call at about 35 delta. So anyway, I hope that video was of some value. It's maybe a little bit more, less tangible, more abstract than most of my videos, but if you have questions, I'd love to hear them. And if you have more expertise than I do, I'd love to hear why you think I'm wrong or if you think I'm right. Just get some discussion going. So anyway, if I don't hear from you, I'll see you next time.